are you from?
I'm from Somalia.
From Somalia?
In Mogadishu.
We like here, Minnesota, as you know, it's a lot of Somali, state of Somalia, that's why.
I don't know how to put it. This is a different culture. This is the Somali community, so.
Cedar Riverside, the West Bank, is its own kind of bubble universe. Once you cross Franklin, once you cross Riverside, you kind of exist in this place, and it's deeply beautiful that doesn't follow the rules of the rest of the city or the rest of reality.
Minnesota, known as the land of 10,000 lakes, is known for its over 14,000 bodies of fresh water, vast prairies, fertile farmland, and also its growing Muslim and African population.
When I grew up, I had friends of all different shades. Now you come up into the city, and really even a lot of little small towns, it seems to be a demographic shift to primarily Somalians.
It's definitely a lot of Somalis, but it don't affect me. I don't care.
Are they pretty friendly?
Yeah, they cool. They cool for the most part. They can't drive for shit, but they alright.
Now home to the largest Somali population in the US, Minnesota has garnered headlines not only due to the viral videos and stories from the state, but also the rapidly changing culture that some have categorized as a takeover of Minnesota.
Muslims around the world are celebrating Eid this weekend, and one of the biggest celebrations in the Western Hemisphere takes place here in Minnesota.
I am proud to announce today that during the month of Ramadan, we will be having the call to prayer broadcast.
So right now we're blessed to have 3 Somali elected officials at the Capitol, and we work very closely together, and we carry each other's bills.
But was this just online exaggeration, or was this community of Somalis from a country over 8,000 miles away really taking over the state like the internet said? We went to the Cedar Riverside neighborhood of Minneapolis, also known as the Somali Capital of America, to go find out.
Somali Street. Where in Somalia are you from?
Mogadishu.
Where are you from? Where are you from?
Somalia.
Which part?
South side?
South side of Somalia?
Yeah, Mogadishu, yeah.
When did you come to the US?
Oh, I come like 2000.
I'm from Somalia, but I gotta go to work right now.
What part of Somalia?
Mogadishu.
Mogadishu. When'd you get here?
I came here 1999.
Do you like the US? How has it been?
It's not bad, it's good.
You guys call here, this area, Little Mogadishu? Are you sure?
Yes. Who said that?
Somebody was just, just following the ladies here and just keep saying, is this area is a Little Mogadishu?
No, that's not us. We've been asking people who live in the area about Somali culture, where they're from, so that's all we've been asking people.
You guys never ask Little Mogadishu or something like that, no?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Where are you from?
I'm from Somalia.
From Somalia?
Little Mogadishu.
You're from Mogadishu, though?
No, I'm not.
Where are you from in Somalia?
I'm from Hargeisa.
Okay, how long have you lived here in Minneapolis for?
5 years.
How do you like it?
Love it.
You do?
Yeah.
Do you ever miss home?
Yeah, I'm going back there now.
To live or visit?
Visit.
To visit?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just trying to learn about the culture here.
It's not important to learn. For someone culture is different culture.
Do you ever miss home, or do you like being here in the US?
I miss home actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you want to go back, or do you think you'll stay?
Going back this year.
You are?
Yeah.
Yeah, we like here, Minnesota, as you know, it's a lot of Somali, state of Somalia, that's why.
So it reminds you of home, which is why you like it here.
Yeah, sometimes I miss home, but for real life, you have to work hard and you have to improve yourself. That's all.
After spending time in the neighborhood, we could see how drastically different this area was from other parts of Minneapolis. But how did the Somali population, which has now grown to an estimated 80 to 100,000 people, become so prominent here in Minnesota? Well, it all started with the Refugee Act of 1980, signed by President Jimmy Carter. This law created a formal system for admitting and resettling refugees into the US, while also providing a path to permanent residency and citizenship after 1 year. This act, which initially set a cap of 50,000 refugees, topped over 200,000 in its first year due to the aftermath of the Vietnam War. And since that time frame, the numbers have continued to fluctuate due to the president being able to set the annual ceiling. For example, we saw numbers ranging from 70,000 to 85,000 per year under President Obama, down to a low of 15,000 refugees under President Trump. This act remains the backbone of U.S. refugee policy, with over 3.5 million refugees resettled nationwide since 1980, including tens of thousands of Somalis. During the 1990s, the Somali Civil War erupted and over 1 million people were displaced after their government's collapse created a massive refugee crisis. Under the Refugee Act, the U.S. began admitting these Somalis in the early 90s, with about 55,000 coming into the U.S. from 1983 to 2004 alone. Many were resettled in Minnesota by organizations like Lutheran Social Services and Catholic Charities, which partnered with the federal government to bring them over. And Minnesota, which already had a strong history of welcoming refugees since the 70s, was a hotspot for affordable housing, job opportunities, and of course, generous social services.
The International Health Clinic sets aside Mondays and Tuesdays to serve Minnesota's growing Somali population, most of whom are in the U.S. legally as refugees and qualify for various health insurance programs.
Secondary migration also played a part in growing the Somali population, as Somalis from other states moved to join families and Somali communities, boosting the population from a few hundred in 1992 to tens of thousands by the 2000s. Immigration reform in the 90s also added more pathways for refugees, such as Temporary Protected Status or TPS, which has shielded Somalis from deportation since 1991 due to ongoing violence and instability in Somalia. This has recently also been extended for Somalis in the US well into 2026. Finally, the Diversity Visa Lottery, launched in 1990 and still active today, allocates up to 55,000 green cards annually to people from unrepresented countries, such as Somalia.
I won DV lottery bourses. DV lottery is like bourses, like you win like Ramadan every year.
Once resettled, refugees and immigrants can sponsor relatives under family reunification provisions of the Immigration and Nationality Act, creating a chain effect that not only continues to grow the populations, but also has fundamentally changed the culture of various American neighborhoods, just like Cedar Riverside.
So we've been out here for probably about 2 hours, and overall, everyone we've spoken to has been pretty friendly. It does seem like some of the locals are getting a little bit defensive, but it's okay. Like I said, so far, everyone's been pretty nice. However, one thing that I have noticed is none of the women will speak to us. They all seem very shy. Would you like to interview with us? No? Okay. And some of the locals explaining maybe why that is.
They've assimilated. Sometimes the women seem kind of not indoctrinized. They're definitely like almost a second rung on the ladder. They're kept to be quiet, and they you know what I mean?
Right. I've been trying to talk to a couple of them. They seem pretty shy.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're not real open with dropping out what's really on their mind. They do keep things. You can see it when you look into their eyes, but they won't talk to you. And it's somewhat, I think, what the culture is.
Some of them will be cool, but most of the Somalis stick to Somalis. You know, I was asking a couple of Somalis about a store I was trying to run for the kids or whatever. You know, he told me, like, you know, if you're not Somali, the Somali community really ain't gonna mess with you like they'll mess with another Somali, you know?
People get freaked out by this neighborhood. When I grew up, there was a lot more violence. There was a lot of stabbings. There was a lot more shootings.
A lot of the critiques online are people saying that the Somalis don't assimilate, that it's an entirely different culture. What's your viewpoint on that as somebody who lives here?
Well, this neighborhood has a lot of history, and there's been like layers and layers of different cultures. Like, most Somali people came to this neighborhood in 95 through 97. Before that, you had a big wave of Oromo, Eritrean, and Amharic people from Ethiopia. Before that, it was Hmong and Vietnamese people who got over by the U.S. government. But that's how it goes. Same with a lot of Somali people, actually. So there's a lot of layers of history and a lot of people that kind of integrated into the subcultural world, which Somali people as a community don't integrate. There's a lot of like structures of like the clan. There's a lot of structures of community that persist, which also leads to a lot of people getting taken care of, Somali people specifically getting taken care of in a way that they wouldn't if they were assimilated. You go to that cafe, you go to any Somali cafe around here, and instead of a tip jar, they got the community fund jar for a family that's broke to send money back home. There is a lot of people who don't assimilate, but that is what it is, you know, and it's like there's nothing wrong with that.
I would say there was a lot more younger people around and just more diversity. I mean, it's not trying to be racist, but it just really is Somalians everywhere. It's a lot cleaner, a lot less chaos. You weren't finding accidents, car accidents, and drug users everywhere and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I've heard you're the second Minnesotan who was mentioned the driving thing, and yesterday we actually witnessed a car crash in this area. Is the driving a big problem?
It is a huge problem, yeah. Things used to be fairly orderly, you know, if something went wrong, the cops would show up. It's not like that anymore. It's kind of like you're left to fend for yourself unless the cops do happen to show up. I know there was a white pickup truck that was just parked like half on the curb and half in the street, and it was there for like a week or two. You never would have seen that kind of thing before. It might still be there. I haven't checked in recently, but just that kind of dilapidated, just negligent, you know, people just not caring about the area.
Really kind of a sad story tonight because we got two Minneapolis restaurants that have been city institutions here for decades. They're shutting their doors.
Now, I'm currently standing in front of Palmer's Bar because this bar has been here for 119 years, and they are set to close down in September after living through the Prohibition, outliving 2 world wars, and the Great Depression. They're going to be closing down because the owners state that not only is the current economic condition taking a toll on the bar, but also the culture surrounding drinking in this area has changed so substantially that they're losing $10,000 to $30,000 every single month. Now, this is not the only bar on this strip of land that is closed down, by the way. 3 other bars have closed down in the last 13 years, as well as an iconic punk rock venue. Now, that venue, which locals had previously stated was a staple in Minneapolis for up-and-coming punk rock bands, that closed down and has since been turned into an African restaurant. And this bar has been bought out by the mosque that is next door to it. It is the oldest Somali mosque in Minneapolis, by the way. They have bought this area, and they are now going to be combining it with their mosque and turning it into a community center.
But the growing population isn't the only way Minneapolis has changed. To give you an idea of how much the Somalian Muslim culture have influenced the city, back in 2019, Mayor of Minneapolis Jacob Frey declared that July 1st was Somali Culture Day.
Jacob Frey, Yarub!
And videos of the annual event regularly go viral as the Minneapolis mayor partakes in traditional Somali dances, waves the Somali flag, and chants "Long live Somalia" in fluent Somali.
Somalia Hanolato! Somalia Hanolato! Somalia Hanolato!
Mayor Frey was also at the forefront of changing noise ordinance throughout Minneapolis to allow the Islamic call to prayer to be broadcasted 5 times a day, with the earliest call starting at around 3 a.m. The Minnesota state flag was also recently changed back in 2024 under the direction of current Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and many Minnesotans immediately called out how similar it looked to none other than Somalia's flag.
Our current flag is problematic. I think we all know that. We've evolved into a more diverse state, and I think it's more reflective of that.
Representation of the Somali population has also made its way to both state and local politics, and back in 2018, Minnesota elected Ilhan Omar, the first Muslim Somali politician to Congress.
Assalamu alaikum. I stand here before you tonight as your Congresswoman-elect.
Omar, who is still currently serving as a Congresswoman, has made waves for her progressive stance and consistent fight against what she states is white supremacist American culture.
We must begin the work of dismantling the whole system of oppression wherever we find it.
But recently, it's her consistent Somalia first stance and loyalty to her home country over the US that has been garnering attention across social media. But I am a Somali girl, a girl with your lineage that misses her country and wishes to live there and share with its people. I am very honored to have the chance that our president of Somalia, President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, let us give him a warm welcome, Minneapolis. The interests of Ilhan are not Ilhan's. It's not the interest of Minnesota, nor is it the interest of the American people. The interest of Ilhan is that of the Somalian people and Somalia.
She's the first Somali immigrant to get elected, to Washington. So I feel it's great, you know, so.
And Ilhan isn't the only Somali politician making waves. Omar Fateh, who recently secured and then lost the Democratic endorsement for mayor of Minneapolis, has also mirrored many of the same sentiments Ilhan Omar has regarding Somalia and the U.S.
Yeah. I understand that our Somali communities are all connected to each other here in Minnesota and back home. And I'm running to bridge that gap and unite all of us and represent all of us, because when we succeed here, we can succeed everywhere.
Fateh and Omar are examples of the changing politics and demographic in Minnesota politics, and despite making up just 1% of the population within Minnesota, many have pointed out just how widespread the influence of the Somali community now stretches. The introduction of mosques throughout the state is another example of the changing area, and back in 1998, the first Somali mosque opened in the state, with only one other mosque open prior. Fast forward to 2025, and there are now at least 76 mosques throughout the state, with a significant number of them opened by Somalis. And while I was on the ground, a shocking story surrounding a local Somali mosque began garnering national headlines.
This is Savannah Hernandez standing in front of the Al Hassan Islamic Center in St. Paul, Minnesota. Now, I'm standing here because this mosque has made national headlines after they penned a letter of community support for a Somali immigrant who sexually assaulted a 12-year-old. Now, back in 2024, this perpetrator was charged after abducting a 12-year-old from her backyard, forcing her into his vehicle, and then sexually assaulting her. He has since been convicted of first-degree criminal sexual assault. Now, after being convicted, his family members were sending letters to the judge to ask the judge to consider his character when making that sentencing. And one of those letters came from the Al Hassan Islamic Center. It was actually signed by their executive director, stating that he had to face cultural differences and the challenges of taking on a new culture. They also framed him as a family-oriented man who sends his money oftentimes back to his family members in Somalia. The judge actually gave him the lightest sentencing possible. He is only going to be serving 8 years in jail for this crime. He was sentenced to 12 years, but those last 4 years are going to be spent out of jail and on probation. By the way, going back to that point about the challenges of a different culture, this perpetrator has been in the United States of America since 2006. So he's been in the United States for 19 years. He was born in Somalia, but he has been here for almost 2 decades at this point. However, the culture coming into play when it comes to, as the Islamic Center put it, this situation, the situation, of course, being him sexually assaulting and abducting a 12-year-old girl.
While this story is not representative of the entire Muslim population, many of the Minnesotans I reached out to consistently stated that the difference in cultural practices and religion have led to difficulties within their state, with headlines surrounding Somali gangs, Somalis linked to statewide fraud cases, and the continued excuse of the challenges of a new culture becoming a more and more common occurrence throughout Minnesota. From the name Mohammed hitting the list of 100 most popular baby names in St. Paul, Minnesota, to the closure of a 119-year-old bar due to the changing culture and drinking habits, the growing African and Muslim population has continued to make its way throughout Minnesota, and due to modern-day U.S. immigration policy, looks like it has no plans of slowing down.
But it was about then, 2006, 2007, where I noticed that their presence was becoming very prominent. And then later we learned that I can't give you exact figures on what they're getting in terms of handouts and doles, but I know I was pretty staggered when I heard if it was either a single person or a couple, it was like $2,500 a month, and if it was a family with kids, they were getting an automatic like $4,500 a month in just handouts, you know, and so when they kind of take over an area like this, it's not really that surprising. People like to say, oh, it's their ingenuity and their work ethic and stuff. It's not. It's handouts, and anybody can flourish with that kind of cushioning.